Now that you're at the back end of it, how did this spring go in comparison, right? And kind of knowing the limitations that you had, did you get what you wanted out of it?
So I think most coaches would, want first and foremost to be healthy, and go through the spring. And we were very healthy. And I think they really learned how to, prepare the right way. We did have a lot of new players that needed to be educated in the way we practice. I thought that they learned. We had some moments early on that we, had to stop and teach. But I told them just a few minutes ago that I was really proud of the way they adapted, after we pointed out that we weren't practicing quite the way I wanted to. And I thought the last 2 weeks were outstanding. So injury-free, practicing the right way, and then developing, the continuity that we needed with the transfers on defense and then the young players on offense. I think we hit all of those. And at the same time, I think we feel that we also, through our strength and conditioning program, we're a better football team from a standpoint of all of the returners as well.
And just kind of building on that, from year one to year two, I guess, what do you hope to learn from the spring game in terms of just how your team operates in that kind of setting?
Yeah, so I think I've made this clear a couple of times, is that I didn't want to get too far ahead in a sense of not focusing on, the attention to detail necessary to build the solid foundation of a program. But at the same time, you want to see cleaner execution. You want to see a preciseness. We were, trying to figure out who the 5 offensive linemen were, right? We've got a pretty good sense of, what that looks like. So I think we go into this with the first unit should look like a first unit top offense in the country. You should go into the spring game going, that looks pretty good. And then defensively, the ideal situation would be the guys that they took out of the portal, they're going to help. Those are really good additions. And so I think if we walk away from those two observations, I think that I would feel good if you guys would write that stuff. If that's what you end up writing. You write whatever you want, obviously, I know that. But if that's what you write about, that would be good.
You had some nice things to say about Jaden yesterday on that radio show. Just could you kind of elaborate, I guess, again, or give it to us? I mean, just what kind of strides have you seen him make in both body structure-wise, but then also...
Yeah, I mean, he's over 210 pounds. He's thicker. He's stronger. This is much more about veteran presence now than acclimating to a new program. I think that's really the difference here. So now you've got a guy that's helping the freshman tight ends, listen, sit down on this route. Don't drag, sit down. I'll get you the football. Those kind of nuances. So it's harder sometimes to explain it, but you can kind of sense it and see it just by his interactions with, Malik in terms of where he wants the football and, how he is just addressing the offensive line when he's making calls. There's just a different presence to him.
Hey, Brian, obviously we got to see Mason Smith and Deshaun Womack actually sort of do some football drills this week. Where are they kind of both at now, and would you be able to even get them involved in any way in the spring game?
Yeah, but it's just not something that is worth the risk. He's in a position where, he can do a lot of the, virtually all of the drill work. But to put him into a spring game, it just doesn't, it there's no advantage, from that perspective. So we'll give him more time to get his legs stronger, and to the point where, his first contact will be, in August. And I think that's probably the prudent thing.
Hey, Coach. Who are some guys that, with so many guys out that are probably going to be first-team guys in the fall, who kind of used that as an opportunity to step up that might have been second team or even behind that?
I think at the jack position, probably Jackson Howard, getting a lot of reps. If you think of, the rotations there, that probably would put him in a, whether he would have gotten as many reps is questionable. I think you get a chance to see, the versatility of, Jacoby and Gilroy, his ability to really develop during the spring because he got so many reps playing the 1 and the 3. I think he was definitely a beneficiary. I would say Ty G, Ty G Adams was a beneficiary of getting a lot of reps. He made really good progress. And I would say Parashand, stands out to me as somebody that I don't know that he necessarily wouldn't have got the reps because we needed to find out about him, but he got so many reps that you could see his progress and his grit kind of grow during the spring to the point where we're like that was a really good spring for him. So I think some of those inside defensive linemen, Fitzgerald West benefited greatly coming over from offense to defense and getting a lot of work. And then I would say finally Quincy Wiggins getting a lot of work and really showing consistency day in and day out, which all of them, as you know, are going to be rotational guys for us when Wingo gets back and certainly Mason gets back to full go. We haven't seen Deshaun Womack, but we anticipate a guy that's going to be able to compete, for a 2-deep role as well. So we think Jefferson, based upon his body of work and playing in the Big 12, is a guy that's going to be in there as well. So, look, I've mentioned a lot of guys. We feel really good about where we're at with the defensive line because of that.
Hey, Coach, just throughout the spring, what kind of changes, maybe improvements, have you seen on special teams?
Well, it's hard. You're really going against air or scout team. But, I just think that, and I think I brought this up the other day, the way we're attacking special teams is much different than we did last year. We have coordinators and assistant coaches that have, responsibilities that they didn't have last year in these units. So there's just a lot more involvement than a singular person. It's Coach Jancic's, responsibility to coordinate it, but Lester Erb is involved quite a bit, as well as Coach Denbrock and Coach House are very much involved. And I think we're all taking that approach, that the biggest difference is I think our players feel us. I think they feel this kind of everybody's involved in special teams. And because of it, it just changes the way they see it. It's just not like a one-man, show, and I got one guy that I got to impress. Everybody's got eyes on special teams, and I think it just changes the sense of urgency.
So how comfortable are you with the influx of both returning and new players that you're going to get in the fall as far as projecting what this team will look like, and how much work will you really have to do in the fall with those additions?
Well, I think it'll be similar to what we just did in the spring, and so it maps out similarly in terms of time, relative to, the 3-4 weeks that you have. And I felt comfortable that we were ready to, insert players in game-like situations after about 2.5 weeks. So I think we're in a similar situation. And now it'll evolve during the year too. Like, guys will evolve, but we have enough time to insert the players necessary into the roles that will have competitive opportunities for such, right? I think we've talked about the defensive line. I still think that there's room for competitive battles in the secondary. I think there's room for competitive battles on the offensive line. I think there's competitive battles at running back. So I just think that we're in a pretty good position this year compared to last year, where I thought last year there was much more work going into the opener against Florida State than there will be going into Florida State this year.
Yeah, last year you guys really capitalized on this weekend from a recruiting perspective. Do you expect that to be the case? You had a lot of former players on campus last year. Just trying to talk about it from that perspective.
Yeah, Joe Burrow's coming back. He's going to help us in recruiting. He's a pretty good recruiter. He recruits quarterbacks really well too. And we have a number of alums that are coming back that we're going to obviously have them involved in recruiting. So, just having our former alums, and it doesn't have to be, look, he's a headliner, but all of our alums have been great in terms of coming back throughout the entire year to help us recruit. We'll have a player panel where it gives us an opportunity to discuss what it's like to be part of this program. So the recruits will get that kind of side of it as well. And they'll get to see the families. We're going to have a crawfish boil after the game, so they'll get a chance to, really see the inside outs of the program. And yeah, it'll be a pretty big day for us. No. If he is, he hasn't told us. And if he is, he would not want me to tell.
I'm just curious how Kyron Lacey's been this spring. I've heard him talked up by a couple of the players as someone who last year, even when he had his road bumps, he turned around and took advantage of the offseason.
He's had a good spring. I think he's a lot more comfortable with where he is positionally. I think at times Kyle was his own worst enemy in terms of his emotional control. I think he's really got that in a great place. He was up and down at times. He's been extremely consistent in the way he's practiced, and I think that preparation is going to show itself on Saturdays.
Brian, you said going into the spring you wanted to have an open mind at quarterback and get Garrett Nussmeier, some first-team reps. How do you think he's done this spring? What would you kind of be your evaluation of where he now stands?
He's really good. I mean, he's had a great spring. He's gotten a lot of work with the first team, and when he's been in with that first group, he's excelled. And again, I think that all you can do is make sure that when they're given the opportunity, it's fair. And we couldn't give him a fair chance if he was just running with an offensive line that has really 3 guys that we moved over, from other positions. So he had to get a lot of that work with the first team, and I think he excelled as well. So I think all we've done is built the quarterback position up, that we have 2 really, really good quarterbacks. Great, thank you.